Hey guys, it's Tony. You're watching the Stoke Show, the show where I talk about all things that make me stoked. And today I'm with Andrew Hiltbrand. How you doing, Andrew?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing a great day. Awesome paddle today. You know, with the best paddle I've ever used in my life. You know what I'm saying?
It's a very bold statement.
I mean, I'm willing to stand by it and drown by it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, tried and true.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's been great. I've used this paddle for like a year now, and you've been making these paddles for like a year now.
Yeah. So really, how it got started was, made the funny joke with a friend of mine going up to the Russell Fork race, and we're just kind of thinking about paddles and how there aren't that many options, and I was like, why don't I just give it a shot?
Yeah, I mean,
stow away a couple grand, and this is what it came to. So, awesome.
Which is interesting. Like, I think that most people wouldn't think to themselves, man, I really hate that I like only can pick like a Werner or a Lettman and then decide I'm just gonna make my own at this point.
Yeah, it's like worst thing that could happen. It was, it didn't work, or it sucked, or, cost too much money. And then I was like, all right, well, I tried, but, I really stuck at it for, about 2 years prototyping and whatnot. And then I decided I was ready.
Yeah. I mean, do you ever feel discouraged considering like we've now lost AT and, there've been other flops as far as paddles go?
Absolutely. I think about it a lot, because thinking about how many paddle manufacturers there are in the U.S. and in the world in general, it's, you could probably count less than 10.
Yeah.
It's less than 10. And, thinking about that is reason, like why are there only so few when there are probably like a similar amount of boat manufacturers, but, paddles aren't, super intensive to do like boat design wise.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it's relatively straightforward, but got to make sure you dot your T's and cross your I's.
Yeah, for sure.
That's opposite, so you know.
Oh, is it?
That was opposite, yeah. No,
Man,
it's supposed to be dot your I's and cross your T's, but I said it backwards.
You're pulling fast ones on me
I am
today.
fast.
Yeah.
Very fast.
Like the paddles.
Like the
I feel
paddles.
very fast when I use your paddles. But I mean, like, now that you've been doing it for a while, like, what's been the biggest takeaway that you've had since starting?
I would say the biggest takeaway is getting the validation of what I've created. And starting out, it was like very nerve-wracking to get people's opinions and feedback, and hearing people like, oh, well, I don't like this about it, or I really love this about it. And so really understanding like people's feedback and trying to like take that information and start putting it into like more products or even more development.
Well, could you give me like an example of that at this point?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that makes us stand out is the X grip on the control side of the paddle. So it's relatively unused in the market. Like, there are like index pieces people like to use, but I went with this route because it gives the paddler that extra grip, and it's just quite different than what's offered. So it really makes them feel like connected with the paddle.
Yeah, I mean, like, it is a really strong indexing, and the actual grip on it is, it's pretty aggressive, I think, in comparison to most stuff that people use. But I think it kind of is a benefit, but does take a little bit getting used to. You're definitely going to get a little bit calluses, peel skin, a little bleedy hands from time to time.
That was the top comment. It's like, oh man, it's going to rip my skin apart. It's like, yeah, but your skin grows back, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like me, like you do like one boat day a week, maybe two, and then your like hands are bleeding till Monday to Tuesday, and you're like, oh, Wednesday I have skin? Like, that's awesome.
So I will say it's a little aggressive, but once you kind of get used to it,
I mean, it's like rock climbing.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like, you start to develop a callus, and then it's like, I mean, it's no different than using like a regular paddle. If you're death gripping a Werner shaft at the end of the day, you're still going to get calluses. You're still going to peel your skin off.
Yeah, it's all in the indexing, and hate to say it, size of the shaft.
Yeah, makes a big difference.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, so what new things are you really like planning to like add to the company and to the paddles?
Yeah, so this year we're excited to do another color option in blue. Kind of going with the word cryo, because it's kind of the dark blue and really shines in the summertime. And then hopefully in a couple more months we'll have our two-piece system out and ready to ship across the country and world.
So are you like worried with transitioning from like only doing like a single shaft, like one piece, to two pieces, that it's going to be any challenges that you're just not expecting?
I think the biggest challenge is trying to understand the kind of like manufacturing process of like trying to add that into the current processes, and making sure that, the lines are cut well off the shaft and everything fits right and it's still the same length, because there's some offset, when you start cutting material, and make sure that that part stays, and just making sure I don't mess it up and then have to throw it away.
Yeah, true. It's a waste of product at that point.
Basically.
But
garbage.
what's the testing process been like for this two-piece that you've got coming?
Yeah, so I've just kind of ordered some sample tubing that, was within the same specs that would fit inside of the shaft, and ordered some sample like clamps, and just kind of, felt them and really put them through the test this past winter, and tried to find like something that is quite popular to use versus what is on the market. So just really trying to dial in like the feature of the clamp, and trying not to get too excessive on the two-piece.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I think one thing that we talked about off camera was the the actual difference of adjustment that you're going to have for this one.
Yeah, so the goal was to not have a huge length difference on a two-piece, because realistically, like, shouldn't be used more than 5 centimeters on a two-piece paddle. It's the main goal and use of a two-piece is that minor adjustability and that customization and the ability to travel with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's the biggest thing in the two-piece market, is like people can travel with their paddle, all their gear. They rent a boat somewhere in Ecuador, Mexico, wherever, and they have their paddle. They're not using, the resort's paddles or their buddy's paddle. Like, they can fly with it and put it in their suitcase.
So, like, that's actually like a big thing to mention, is just being able to fit it in a suitcase. I know that I've tried taking a two-piece before overseas, and it just didn't work. I couldn't fit it in an actual suitcase, and I didn't want to pay the like
$75 and the baggage fee.
The baggage fee for like a big bag that I really just needed a paddle with.
Right.
So I think that being able to actually fit it in a suitcase with the rest of my gear, I mean, is kind of a big selling point for travel.
Yeah, so that's the main goal, but I think we're going to try and make it fit in like the gear duffel bag, because, realistically, you're probably traveling with a bunch of clothes, a bunch of gear.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to get it fit in with that, instead of trying to like really make it small and fit in small places, going on big trips.
I mean, we're small guys.
Small
we
guys,
fit in
small
places.
paddles, not big.
Yeah,
shafts.
yeah, exactly.
Not very big shafts.
But I mean, one of the things that I find most incredible is that you're still doing this. Like, I feel like most people set out and they're like, hey, I got a cool idea, and then don't follow through with it. And so I feel like you have to have a cool story now for like the company and the paddle and the process that it's been so far. What's your favorite story?
So favorite story, I guess, like when we were launching, it was right around like the beginning of April, and so can't really post anything on April Fool's Day, because people think it's a joke or might not even come to fruition. So I had to wait a couple days to make that post to say, hey, we're in business, we're making these paddles, and we hope that you support us. Even if you don't buy a paddle, just follow us along and see what we're up to. And the biggest thing I've learned, like, trying to start this thing, is as long as you put the time and put the energy into it and just stay committed to having that like plan, then you're gonna succeed. It's like, if the product sucks, then maybe you need to scrap it or rework something, and just kind of like pivot from there. But really just standing behind the product and trying to be like, look, like, we're using it. It's not probably the best paddle in the world per se, but I think it's been really fun to actually like bring this from the ground up and just see everybody enjoy
I mean, I think that I've ran into a fair amount of people who've been stoked about the paddle as well. I mean, it's not like Warner. I'm not saying like a million Vulcan paddles across the river, but I think over the last year I've really seen more of a presence just out and about, like just randomly too.
Yeah, so last year, so from April through December, there were approximately 45 paddles out in the market. So that includes the U.S. and the world market. So there are actually some overseas in Europe and, or I guess more specifically, the U.K. and I think it's Finland. I think there's one in Finland floating around.
If you're the one Finnish guy out there, I mean, props to you. Thanks for repping the brand.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Get more fins on it, you know what I'm saying?
More fins, more plates.
Yeah. Oh, so one of the things that you do like offer, I think, which was really impressive to me when you first started, was like a little, like even small customizations. Like, what customizations are we going to be able to see from here on out that you're going to offer?
I will say, like, if there's something that's on the website, or if you're really particular about something on your paddles, definitely reach out to us. And when I say us, it's just me, but from any degree offset to any length, like, we'll go into the specifics and try to make it happen within a reasonable amount of time. Just kind of get that customization option out there, and really hoping to, like, once we grow more, like, bring in that customization more on material. So that way we can kind of cater more towards those individuals who like to be a little bit spicy in their customization.
Yeah, just a little bit of flair to it.
A little bit of flair, whether it be materials or,
So one of the things that I'm curious about is, like, I mean, you use a medium paddle face, which is kind of rare, I think, in the whitewater scene. It's typically small or large.
Yeah.
I mean, are you ever going to offer a small or large paddle face option?
I will say, like, with the next design I'm thinking about doing, it's definitely going to be a larger river running blade, probably more for the fiberglass and carbon fiber people, like not the foam core market, but I think that would be a great start to do the large blade first, get the reception of it, and then dial it back into a smaller blade.
Mm-hmm.
I went with this medium-sized blade just to kind of fit into that middle ground market where I didn't want to be so powerful that, it just torques your shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
but I also didn't want it to be, super, or I guess, like, not necessarily weak, but like less blade surface to get that purchase when you're paddling. So I wanted that middle ground to kind of get everybody in on it.
Yeah, and I mean, I genuinely appreciate it, because I used a powerhouse for a long time, and I did enjoy having that power, but I would often have to dial it back after I started, like, feeling a little bit of soreness in my shoulder, bicep, and switch back to a strike. And I always hated having to sacrifice that comfortability for, I guess, like, power at times.
Yeah.
And I think that the medium face has been a benefit to that. Like, I feel less crappy after, like, a hard paddle day.
For sure. And I think it really caters to those racers as well who like to get a higher cadence. And so that way they can get more strokes in, like, kind of keep their power up. And, with modern boat technology, like, they're able to glide on their strokes. So if they can continue that glide and have easier time paddling, then, it's, game on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what races are you going to do this year?
I don't know. I kind of stepped back from the racing scene and just really wanted to enjoy more of the fall, paddling season. But King of New York series is always my favorite one to kick off.
Yeah.
Not Great Falls. Great Falls is fun, but it's always hot as fuck.
Yeah, it was pretty hot last year. I do recommend going to the Great Falls race. The Great Falls Foundation puts on a spectacular event. It is super hot. I did photos and video last year.
A lot of liquid for hydration. You need a lot of liquid. I'm talking frozen Gatorade. You need, like,
two of them
at minimum.
Yeah.
And then, like, gallon of water. Like, yeah, you're going to boat that in, but trust me, you're going to drink it all.
Yeah.
In 4 hours.
Especially if you're doing both days. I mean, like, and then you're doing the slalom and then actual just like straight run.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty legit, but it's a great race though. It's good crowd too.
Yeah, the community up there is awesome. I mean, it's super supportive and very competitive, but, it's not very standoffish like, some places are in the U.S.
If you had to sell your company and your paddles by only using you as an example, what example would you provide to everybody else?
Could you elaborate on that?
Like if you were to say you should buy my paddles because I have a great sense of fashion and color coordination.
Sure.
Like, would that be your reason, or would you go with something else?
I mean, honestly, it's the biggest thing is there aren't that many color options in these materials on the market.
I'm asking more about you. Like, what's Andrew Hiltbrand? Like, what's cool about you that I should buy a cool paddle from a cool guy?
We can go kayaking together. Can you go kayaking with the guy who made Werner? Can you go kayaking with the guy who made Aquabounds? Like, I'll go kayaking with you. Like, it's just a fun sport, and I started in everybody's positions. I was a beater once. Believe it or not, I used to beat her a lot.
Used to?
I used to.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I don't beat her anymore.
This is
I'm crisp now.
Yeah.
Very crisp on my lines. But yeah, like it's just kind of like the grassrootiness of, you get to support someone local who's trying to start out, trying to make a brand, and you really get to understand like what's going on behind the scenes. If somebody's not really into the whole paddle sport scene, like you might not know what goes into making a boat or making a paddle or, you know, any gear that you wear. But, you know, we could have that conversation and have that interaction on the river.
Yeah, it's definitely an accessibility thing to you as a person. But I do have to imagine that your neighbors probably think you're a little weird at this point.
Yeah, my upstairs neighbor definitely thinks I'm weird because she's like, you're always in the garage making these paddles. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm trying something here. Like, get your dog away from me. I'm scared.
Well, sweet, man. I mean, when should we expect to see the next paddle out for you guys?
So got to start some prototyping here this summer once things kind of ramp up. But hopefully have a new blade design and possibly bench shaft next year in 2025.
Awesome, dude. I mean, I know there's a lot of guys that are into bench shafts and they would love to see more of it.
Yeah, they're totally into bench shafts.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that having that availability in the future definitely will be a up and up thing for you for sure.
Yeah,
but
just got to make sure it's right. Can't be a shitty bench shaft. Yeah. It's got to be a good bench shaft.
Yeah, for sure. You can't have a bad one. You know?
You can't. You can't. It could be uneven.
Yeah,
that
fair.
would not be very good.
Well, Andrew, it's been a pleasure. If any of you guys are interested in buying any of the paddles from ArcaWorks, there'll be a link down below. And give a shout out.
Yeah.
And send him an annoying message on Instagram or something.
Dude, you can send me a message all you want. I'll think it's probably hilarious.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
An awesome
Thanks
time.
for hosting me.
Oh, it's always good to have you around, dude.